Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract success with ease, while others, no matter how hard they try, remain stuck in the same place? It's not luck. It's not a coincidence either. It's the law of attraction in action, operating silently and precisely, like an invisible force shaping every detail of your reality. But here's the secret almost no one tells you. Positive thinking isn't enough. Believe it or not, thinking positively is just scratching the surface of something much deeper, something few truly understand. Most people try to change the results without changing the cause. It's like trying to change a mirror's reflection without altering the image in front of it. And that's precisely why, despite all their effort, study, and good intentions, they keep attracting the same situations, the same problems, and the same cycle of scarcity. I want to show you how to break that cycle right now. True change begins at the deepest level of the mind, far beyond what you consciously perceive. You can have the best plans, the best intentions, and even work harder than anyone else. But if your subconscious is programmed for scarcity, it will sabotage you. It's almost imperceptible, but it happens constantly. It's that inner voice that says, "This is too difficult for me," or "These things only happen to other people." That voice doesn't come from logic. It comes from programming ingrained in you before you even knew what was happening. It dictates the decisions you make, the opportunities you ignore, and the limits you unconsciously accept for your life. I learned this the hard way. There was a time when I worked as a firefighter in Toronto. My pay was low, my debts high, and the feeling of being trapped was constant. I thought that was my destiny, that success was reserved for those who had luck, a degree, or powerful connections. The truth is, I was living trapped in a paradigm, a mental model that made me believe poverty was normal and wealth was for others. I didn't realize that my mind was like a magnet, and everything I attracted into my life was a direct reflection of what I believed about myself. One day, everything started to change when a man handed me a book, Think and Grow Rich. He looked me in the eyes and said, "If you do exactly what's written here, your life will change." At that moment, I didn't know what to believe. I was broke, hopeless, and adrift. But I was willing to try anything that would get me out of that cycle. I started applying what the book taught, even without fully understanding it. And that's when I realized something extraordinary. The transformation didn't begin in the world around me, but within me. I began to think differently. For the first time, I started to imagine myself rich, confident, successful. It seemed insane at first. I had nothing to prove it. But as I nourished these images with emotion and conviction, something began to change. Not externally, but internally. My thoughts became clearer, my decisions bolder, and opportunities started to appear. It was as if the world was responding to a new command. And it was. Because the world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are, and who you are is determined by what is programmed in your subconscious. You see, it's easy to believe that to change your life, you need to change your job, your relationship, or where you live. But all of that is an effect, not the cause. The cause lies within your mind. Changing the exterior without changing the interior is like trying to correct the reflection in a mirror without touching the person standing in front of it. And that's why so many people remain stuck in the same patterns even when they make an effort, even when they say they're trying. They are fighting an invisible force that lives inside them, a belief system that dictates what is possible and what isn't. Think how many times you've decided to change. You promised yourself you'd start fresh, that this time it would be different, but somehow things ended up reverting to how they were before. This doesn't happen due to a lack of willpower. It happens because willpower is conscious, but the paradigm is subconscious. It's like trying to move a mountain by pushing it with your fingers. Until the image you have of yourself changes, nothing else will change. I remember the first time I realized the power I held within me. I was sitting at the table surrounded by bills and debts, and I decided to imagine a new reality. I closed my eyes and saw myself leading a prosperous company, helping people, and living in abundance. In that moment, something clicked inside me. I realized I could create anything if I could see it clearly in my mind. I didn't know how it would happen, but I decided to believe. And it was that decision that began to move pieces I didn't even know existed. People think success comes from effort, but effort is merely a consequence of belief. When you believe deeply in something, your behavior automatically aligns. You act differently, speak differently, choose differently. The entire universe responds to that. But when you doubt, when deep down you believe you're not capable, the universe also responds, but with resistance, roadblocks, and scarcity. Most people don't understand that the subconscious mind has no sense of humor. It doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. It simply accepts what you repeat with emotion. And that's why if you constantly say, "I can't do it," "I'm not capable," or "it's too hard," it turns those words into your reality. The subconscious is like fertile soil. It doesn't question what you plant. If you plant scarcity, you harvest limitation. If you plant abundance, you harvest opportunities. When I started to reprogram my mind, things that seemed impossible began to happen. I opened a cleaning company without knowing anything about business. In 1 year, it made me over $100,000. But the most incredible thing wasn't the money. It was the understanding that I had power over my reality. I, the same man who once believed he would never succeed, was proving to myself that the mind creates everything. You can do the same. All you need is to recognize that what's holding you back isn't the world, but the paradigm you hold. The moment you decide to change the image you have of yourself, the universe begins to rearrange itself to correspond to that new version. And the most powerful thing of all is that this doesn't depend on luck, connections, or circumstances. It depends only on one decision, the decision to reprogram yourself. Because true wealth doesn't start in your pocket, it starts in your mind. You live according to your paradigm, and most people don't even know what that means. A paradigm is like an invisible operating system installed in your mind. It is composed of beliefs, habits, memories, and emotions repeated so often they've become automatic. It's this set of mental programs that determines what you believe is possible, how much money you earn, how you relate to others, how you react to challenges, and even how you see yourself in life. And the most curious thing is that you didn't consciously choose most of it. These ideas were absorbed since childhood, coming from family, school, society, experiences, and today they control over 95% of everything you do, feel, and think. Think how many times you promised to change. You swore you'd stop procrastinating, save money, eat better, take care of yourself, and for a while you really succeeded. But then, almost without realizing it, you reverted to old patterns. It's as if something stronger than your conscious will pulled you back, and that's exactly what happens. Your paradigm acts like an invisible magnet, always bringing you back to the vibrational field you're accustomed to. It isn't interested in what you want. It's merely committed to maintaining what's familiar. Have you ever noticed how some people grow up in families where everyone believes that money is hard to come by, and spend their entire lives repeating the same financial destiny as their parents? That's not a coincidence. It's mental inheritance. The paradigm is transmitted like an emotional genetic code, and until you identify and reprogram it, it will continue to generate the same results. That's what I realized when I started studying the power of the mind. I understood that my life wasn't a reflection of my capability, but of my programming. I was controlled by beliefs that told me I wasn't good enough, that success was for few, that ordinary people should settle for little. And the most dangerous thing is that I didn't even know I believed it. These ideas operate silently. They determine the type of people you attract, the jobs you accept, the limits you impose on yourself. The paradigm even dictates what you perceive as an opportunity. Two people can look at the same situation and see completely different things. One sees an obstacle, the other sees a chance. The difference isn't in the situation, it's in the mental program. The scarcity paradigm sees problems. The abundance paradigm sees possibilities. I remember when I began to realize how enslaved I was by my own paradigm. I used to say I wanted to earn more money, but deep down every time I thought about it, an inner voice whispered, "You're not qualified enough. You didn't finish school. Who are you to earn that much?" And as long as I fed that voice, nothing changed. The universe responded to what I truly believed, not what I said I wanted. Because the law of attraction doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your vibration. And your vibration is generated by your paradigm. You see, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, how hard you work, how much you pray or plan. If your paradigm is one of limitation, everything you do will be filtered through that programming. It's like trying to see the sunrise through a dirty pane of glass. The light is there, but the grime distorts the view, and the grime here represents your unconscious beliefs. This is why so many people live the same cycle. They start a project with enthusiasm, feel inspired, but soon motivation wanes, doubt creeps back in, fear takes over, and the old pattern reasserts control. You might even think, but if I know I believe in something negative, why can't I just change? The answer is both simple and profound. The paradigm is emotional, not logical. It's rooted in your nervous system, etched into every cell, and responds to patterns of feeling, not rational arguments. This is why you can know what you need to do and still fail to do it. Your conscious mind understands, but your subconscious doesn't agree. And it's the subconscious that holds the real power. Once I grasped this, everything shifted. I realized I wasn't a failure, nor was I unlucky. I was just someone programmed to operate within a certain range of outcomes. And the good news is that any program can be replaced. But first, you have to recognize what's running inside. Ask yourself, what do I truly believe about money, love, success, and deservingness? The answers might sting, but they are the first step toward freedom. I've seen brilliant people with extraordinary talents trapped by paradigms that whisper, "You'll never make it." They didn't fail due to lack of ability, but due to lack of belief. And I also saw simple people, without formal education, completely transform their lives just because they decided to change their mental programming. The difference lies in who takes control of their own system. Until you change the program changes you. Your paradigm is like an autopilot. You can hold the controls for a while, but if you don't reconfigure the system, sooner or later, it will guide you back to the original route. And that's why so many people feel like they're always returning to square one. The key lies in re-educating the subconscious through repetition, emotion, and visualization. You need to create new mental images and sustain them with feeling until they become second nature. When I decided to break free from my old paradigm, everything started to shift. Not immediately, but gradually. Opportunities began to surface, the right people crossed my path, and my self-confidence grew with every step. I wasn't swimming against the current anymore. I was flowing with it. And that's what happens when the new paradigm takes hold. Effort ceases to be a struggle and becomes expansion. You don't have to be a prisoner of what you've learned, nor a hostage to what you've experienced. Your paradigm can be rewritten, and when that happens, everything changes. Your income, your relationships, your health, your energy. The world around you begins to reflect the new version of yourself. Life isn't about trying to be someone different. It's about remembering who you truly are before the paradigm told you otherwise. Because the greatest power there is the power to free yourself from what you were once taught to believe was impossible. Think about how many times you've received unexpected money, and without understanding how, it vanished quickly. Maybe it was a bonus at work, an extra payment, a gift, or even a raise. At first, you felt excited, believing that now everything would be different. But in a short time, your balance returned to the same, or even lower, level. This happens to millions of people worldwide, and it's not bad luck or poor management. It's the financial paradigm silently at play. The subconscious mind, programmed for scarcity, simply doesn't recognize abundance as natural. And anything it doesn't recognize, it repels. Money is energy in motion. It flows where it's welcome and stays where there's vibrational harmony. If deep within you still exists the belief that money is hard to get, money is dangerous, or people with money change for the worse, your subconscious will create ways to push it away from you. Sometimes this happens through impulsive spending, poor decisions, or even opportunities you don't even notice. Have you noticed how some people seem to attract situations where they need to spend everything they have? The car breaks down, the fridge malfunctions, an emergency arises. It's not a coincidence. It's the subconscious restoring balance to the financial level it believes is safe. I lived this experience myself. When I started earning more money with my first business, a cleaning company, I felt something I had never felt before. Discomfort. Yes, discomfort. It was as if that money wasn't mine, as if I didn't have the right to have it. And without realizing it, I started doing everything to get rid of it. I spent money on unnecessary things, helped people who didn't even ask, donated more than I could, and in the end, I found myself back where I started, with nothing. I didn't understand it at the time, but it was my subconscious trying to return me to what it considered normal. The problem wasn't the money, it was the self-image I held. Money only stays where there's a mental structure compatible with it. It's like trying to pour 1 liter of water into a 200 milliliter glass. The excess overflows. Similarly, if your mind is prepared to survive, but not to prosper, the excess will always escape in some way. And that's why most lottery winners end up broke again in less than 5 years. They received a reality their subconscious wasn't prepared to sustain. Internally, they maintained the same scarcity paradigm, the same fear of loss, the same belief that they didn't deserve that much, and the universe simply adjusted the external scenario to match the internal pattern. The subconscious mind acts like a financial thermostat. Just as an air conditioner automatically adjusts the room's temperature, your subconscious adjusts your financial reality to the level it considers comfortable. If you exceed this limit, you unconsciously create situations to return to the starting point. The same happens in reverse. If you're earning less than you believe you deserve, you find ways to increase your income until you return to the mental level where you feel secure. The secret lies in raising that equilibrium point, and that only happens when you change your perception of money and your own worth. Think about the beliefs you've carried since childhood. How many times have you heard phrases like, "Money doesn't buy happiness, money is dirty," or "rich people are greedy"? Each of these ideas, repeated thousands of times, becomes a command in your subconscious, and it obeys without question. You can say you want to prosper, but if deep down you believe money pushes people away, you will sabotage every opportunity for growth to maintain the love and acceptance of others. This is why so many people unconsciously associate wealth with loneliness, guilt, or shame. They want money, but they vibrate with rejection, and the universe, obedient, responds to the vibration, not the words. Abundance isn't just a matter of quantity, it's a matter of frequency. Money is neutral, it merely amplifies what already exists within you. If there's fear, it amplifies fear. If there's confidence, it amplifies confidence. Therefore, before seeking to earn more, you need to learn to feel comfortable with what you already have. True prosperity begins when you stop fearing abundance and start accepting it as a natural part of your existence. Neuroscience confirms that the human brain builds familiarity through repetition. If you grew up in an environment of scarcity, your nervous system associates discomfort with plenty and security with lack. This explains why so many people feel anxiety when they start achieving success. They're simply not used to that feeling. This is why mental reprogramming requires repetition and emotion. You need to teach your brain to feel safe in abundance, to create new connections that associate money with freedom, contribution, and joy, rather than guilt or fear. Start by observing how you feel when you receive money. Do you get anxious, feel guilty, or immediately think about how little will be left? This reveals the vibrational level at which you operate. From there, practice a new pattern. When money arrives, even if it's a small amount, feel genuine gratitude. Thank it as if it were pure abundance. Use it with awareness, without fear, without haste. The more you feel it's natural to receive and keep money, the more the universe will bring situations that confirm this belief. I learned that true prosperity isn't about acquiring money. It's about becoming the kind of person who knows how to handle it, who vibrates in harmony with it. Money is merely a mirror of your inner state. When you change your self-image, the way money behaves around you changes too. It stops being a source of stress and becomes an ally, a constant flow of energy that moves in and out with balance. Money doesn't transform people, it merely reveals who they are on the inside. Therefore, if you desire a prosperous life, don't start by chasing money. Start by chasing consciousness. Transform your mind into a safe haven for abundance to reside. Once your subconscious is aligned with wealth, it will stop being something you chase and become something you naturally attract. Oprah Winfrey is one of the most powerful examples of how the mind can completely transform reality. She was born in a small town in Mississippi, amidst extreme poverty, and faced situations that would emotionally destroy anyone. She was rejected, suffered abuse, was humiliated, and for a long time was told she would never have a chance in life. Statistics declared her destiny was failure. But within her, something no amount of pain could extinguish persisted. A small voice that whispered day after day, "You were born for something greater." This quiet conviction, nurtured even amidst chaos, proved to be the turning point that changed everything. Most people look at stories like Oprah's and think it was luck, destiny, or talent, but it was none of those things. It was consciousness. She understood, perhaps without knowing its name at the time, the fundamental principle of the law of attraction. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Even when everything around her suggested otherwise, Oprah maintained a different mental image. She didn't see poverty, she saw purpose. She didn't see limitations, she saw possibilities. While the world rejected her, she chose herself every single day, and that's precisely what makes all the difference. The universe doesn't respond to others' opinions of you. It responds to the vibration you emit about yourself. I like to remember that people don't become great because the world favors them. They become great because they decide not to accept the limited version the world presents to them. Oprah chose not to be a product of her circumstances, but rather their creator. She started where she was, with what she had, and kept her vision alive in her mind. The vision to inspire, to communicate, to transform lives. And that image became so powerful that it began to attract opportunities, people, mentors, resources, everything she needed to manifest what already existed within her. Because that's how it works. The outer world always adjusts to the inner world. This story reminds me of the power residing within each of us when we choose to feed the vision instead of the doubt. When I began my journey, I also had nothing but an idea. I worked as a firefighter, without a degree, without connections, and burdened with debt. But deep inside me there was a persistent feeling that I could achieve more. I didn't know how, but I refused to accept that my reality was definitive. And it was that feeling, that internal vision of abundance and purpose, that propelled me to change. What Oprah did, and what anyone can do, was to harness the power of imagination to create a new frequency of life. You might be anywhere right now, struggling with debt, trapped in a job you hate, in a limiting relationship, or simply weary of trying, but none of that defines what's yet to come. What defines it is the image you keep alive within your mind. And what most people don't understand is that the universe doesn't respond to your current situation. It responds to the emotional frequency you maintain. If you consciously decide to nurture a vision of victory, growth, and abundance, even if there's no evidence of it yet, life begins to reorganize itself to match that new vibration. Oprah's transformation didn't happen overnight. There were rejections, failures, tears, and, in many moments, loneliness. But what kept everything in motion was the decision to keep believing even without guarantees. This is what separates those who manifest extraordinary results from those who give up halfway. Most people only believe in what they can see, but those who understand the law of attraction know it's the opposite. You need to see it internally for the external to manifest. What you feel with conviction creates your reality. There's something fascinating about her story, something that reflects a universal law. Oprah didn't change the world to become successful. She changed herself, and the world reacted. When you transform internally, everything around you changes. People perceive you differently, opportunities arise, paths open up. It's not coincidence, it's vibrational coherence. And that same power is within you right now. Imagine what would happen if, starting today, you stopped focusing on scarcity and began concentrating on what you desire to experience. Imagine if, instead of asking, "Why doesn't it work out for me?" you started asking, "How can I align myself with what I want?" This simple shift in focus can completely alter your life. It's what Oprah did. It's what I did. And it's what thousands of people do every day, often without realizing they're naturally applying the law of attraction. Modern science, moreover, is proving this. The human brain doesn't differentiate between what's real and what's intensely imagined. When you visualize something with emotion, you activate the same brain areas involved in the real experience. This creates new neural pathways, new possibilities, and over time, new behaviors. That's how change happens, from the inside out. When Oprah began to see herself as an influential woman, even without having any influence whatsoever, she was creating new mental connections, new emotions, and a new frequency. The universe responded by bringing situations that matched that image. This isn't mysticism, it's physics. Everything vibrates, and it vibrates at specific levels. You attract what is in resonance with your emotional field. So, look within. What image have you been holding of yourself? Do you see yourself as limited or capable, insecure or confident? That image is the blueprint of your destiny. And just like Oprah, you can change it now. The secret is to persist in the new vision, even when the world hasn't yet recognized it. Because when your inner self transforms, it's only a matter of time until the exterior follows suit. The human mind is an extraordinary machine, but it's also selective. It doesn't register everything happening around it. It chooses what it wants to perceive. And that's where the secret lies. Inside your brain, there's a system called the reticular activating system. It acts like a filter that separates what's relevant from what's irrelevant, based solely on what you believe, focus on, and feel intensely. This means the reality you perceive is merely a reflection of what your mind has decided is important. If deep down you believe that money is hard to come by, that opportunities are rare, or that life is unfair, your brain literally erases chances that could change everything. It doesn't do this to punish you, but to protect you. The brain is designed to confirm your beliefs, not to contradict them. It seeks coherence between what you believe and what you see. Therefore, if you repeat daily, "There's no work for me, nobody values me, things never work out," your reticular activating system adjusts and begins to show you only situations that validate these ideas. You might be surrounded by opportunities, but your mental filter makes you walk right past them, as if they didn't exist. Think about how many times you bought a new car or desired a specific model and suddenly started seeing that car everywhere. They were always there, but only now did your brain begin to recognize them. The same happens with money, with relationships, and with success. When you shift your focus, you also shift what you perceive. It's simple yet powerful. What you believe, you perceive. What you perceive, you experience. And what you experience becomes your reality. Most people live as if their filter is stuck on scarcity. They see only problems, bills, difficulties, and the more they focus on this, the more their brain strives to find proof that they are right. It's a vicious cycle. Focus creates perception, perception reinforces belief, and belief creates more of the same reality. That's why changing your life starts by changing your focus. You need to start paying attention to what you want, not what you fear. I remember when I began studying this principle. At the time, I was burdened with debt. Money barely covered the basics, and I spent my days worried, trying to figure out how to get out of that situation. All I saw around me were signs of lack. Every bill that arrived seemed like a reminder that I wasn't doing well, until I realized that the problem wasn't the lack of money, but the focus on the lack. I decided to shift my point of attention. I started looking every single day for signs of prosperity, even small ones. An unexpected payment, a new client, an idea that seemed promising. And something surprising happened. The more I focused on abundance, the more it appeared. It was as if I had changed the lenses through which I viewed the world. This isn't magic, it's neuroscience. The reticular activating system is fueled by emotional repetition. In other words, the more you think and feel something, the more your brain understands that it's important and needs to be reinforced. If you wake up every day feeling anxious, your brain starts prioritizing everything that triggers anxiety. If you begin your day with gratitude and enthusiasm, It starts showing you reasons to feel grateful and enthusiastic. The world doesn't change. What changes is the filter you use to interpret it. There's a study conducted at Stanford University that shows the human brain processes about 11 million bits of information per second, but we can only consciously perceive about 40. This means that every second you ignore almost everything happening around you. So what determines which information enters your consciousness? Your beliefs, your focus, the emotional vibration you maintain. That's why people with a prosperous mindset see opportunities in places where others only see crisis. They aren't smarter, they simply have different filters. Think of someone you know who always seems to get lucky. That person who is always in the right place at the right time. The truth is, it's not luck, it's perception. They've trained their brain to see what most people ignore. Success isn't merely about extreme effort, it's about aligning your perception. You don't attract what you wish for. Instead, you begin to notice what's already available to you once you align with the right frequency. The key to shifting this filter lies in 3 simple steps: repetition, emotion, and intention. First, mentally repeat the kind of reality you want to experience, not mechanically, but with genuine feeling. Next, truly feel as though it's already real. Your brain only responds to what carries emotional weight. Finally, act with intention, actively seeking out signs that confirm this new belief. Initially, the old filter will resist. It will try to convince you that nothing has changed. But if you persist, the system will begin to adjust, and what once seemed impossible will start to manifest before your very eyes. Today, I can say with complete conviction, the world has always reflected what I believed. When I believed in scarcity, I saw scarcity everywhere. When I started to believe in abundance, life showed me exactly that. And the same law applies to you. What you choose to see will be what you live. The universe isn't selective, your brain is. That's why, if you want a different life, stop trying to change the world, change what you see in it. Everything you need is already here, just waiting for your focus to allow you to see it. If what I'm telling you so far makes sense, if in some way you feel something awakening within you, then this is the moment to act. I want you to pause for an instant, take a deep breath, and click like on this video, not just as a symbolic gesture, but as an act of commitment to your own growth. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel now, because what comes next will help you understand the true power of transforming your life from within your mind. Now think with me. How many times have you started something full of energy and motivation only to give up halfway through? How many times have you had an idea, a project, a dream, and for some reason put everything off until later? This happens because most people live reactively, not consciously. They don't realize that every choice, every thought, and even every emotion are signals being sent to the universe. And the universe, like an echo, simply responds. So, when you hesitate, the universe hesitates with you. When you doubt, it gives you reasons to doubt. But when you decide with conviction, everything begins to move in your favor. I learned that the secret isn't in waiting to feel ready, but in acting even without a guarantee. The energy of action is one of the most powerful forces of the law of attraction, because it communicates to the universe that you trust. When you act, even in the face of fear, you are saying, "I believe." And the universe always responds to faith in motion. People often think they need to have confidence to start, but it's the opposite. You start to develop confidence. Clarity comes with movement, and movement comes from decision. I remember perfectly the first time I needed to take a leap of faith. When I started my cleaning company, I had no experience, no team, and barely knew how to manage a business. The only thing I had was a belief that I could make it work. I didn't wait for the perfect moment. I didn't wait to know everything. I just started. And it was precisely by acting that opportunities began to emerge. Clients appeared. People started to help me. And in a short time, that small business earned me more than $100,000 in the first year. All because I decided to act, even without knowing what would come next. You need to understand that the universe doesn't reward thought. It rewards movement. Positive thinking is the beginning, but it's action that materializes. You can have the best plan in the world, but without attitude, nothing changes. Fear and doubt are signs that you are stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's good. It means you are expanding. The problem is that many people interpret this discomfort as a warning to stop, when in reality, it's just proof that you're on the right path. And there's something very important about this. When you start to act toward what you desire, even with small steps, the energy changes. It's as if the universe says, now he is ready, and begins to align the pieces. But as long as you only think and wait, everything remains still. Because the energy of waiting attracts more waiting. The energy of action attracts results. So if you're absorbing these ideas so far, if you feel that this makes sense, I want to propose a challenge. Choose an area of your life where you've been postponing a decision. It could be changing careers, starting a project, investing in something new, or simply changing a habit. And today, right now, take a concrete step. It could be a phone call, a message, a note, any action that shows the universe you are committed, and observe what happens in the next few days. The vast majority of people never realize that life is always responding to their dominant energy. When you start to act, coincidences increase, doors open, and the right people begin to appear. It's not a miracle, it's alignment. Because the universe is movement, and everything that is in movement attracts more movement. Your life begins to change when you change what you do with what you learn. And if you've made it this far, it's because a part of you already knows you're ready for this. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Click like, share this energy with the universe, and stay with me. Because from now on, we're going to dive even deeper into what truly makes the law of attraction work. Jim Carrey understood something that most people spend their entire lives trying to grasp. Before becoming one of the biggest names in world cinema, he was just a young man with few resources, but with a clear and unwavering vision of who he wanted to be. He didn't just wish for success, he lived it mentally long before any physical evidence appeared. In 1985, he wrote himself a check for $10 million and set the maturity date 5 years ahead. Then, he kept that check in his wallet and looked at it every day as a reminder of what he was creating in his mind. At that time, he lived in a car, faced rejections, and had no guarantee that it would work. But there was something inside him that said, it's only a matter of time, and that's exactly what happened. 5 years later, he received the first major contract of his career, worth $10 million, for the movie Dumb and Dumber. This was no coincidence. It was a perfect demonstration of how the universe responds to the vibration of someone who truly believes. Jim Carrey didn't just write that check as a symbolic gesture. He was programming his own mind to accept abundance as something natural. He visualized, felt, and acted in total coherence with the future he wanted to live. And it is precisely this coherence between thought, emotion, and action that makes the law of attraction work. Most people live in a state of internal conflict. They say they want to prosper, but they vibrate in doubt. They dream of success, but they see themselves as small. And the universe always responds to the strongest vibration. And almost always, the strongest vibration is that of fear. When you desire something but feel that it is difficult or distant, what you are emitting is not faith, it is scarcity. That's why people end up attracting more situations that confirm the feeling of lack. Jim Carrey did the opposite. He didn't just think about $10 million, he saw himself receiving, experiencing, and giving thanks for it as if it were already real. I remember when I started applying this principle in my own life. After reading Think and Grow Rich, I began to imagine a completely different version of myself. I saw myself traveling the world, giving speeches, helping people transform their lives, and living in abundance. At the time, this image seemed absurd. I had no money, no formal education, nor any reason to believe it was possible, but I decided to act as if it were inevitable. I wrote detailed goals, spoke of them with emotion and conviction, and visualized every detail, the stage lights, the sound of applause, the feeling of purpose. And the more I did this, the more real it became. What few people understand is that visualization is not just a motivational tool, it is a process of mental reprogramming. When you visualize with emotion, the brain doesn't differentiate between what is real and what is imagined. It starts to create new neural connections that reinforce that scenario as truth. It's as if you were installing new software inside your mind, and when this new program becomes dominant, your actions, decisions, and perceptions automatically begin to align with it. That's what Jim Carrey did. He repeated the future he wanted to see until his subconscious accepted it as his new reality. The big mistake most people make is giving up too soon. They visualize for a few days, then look around and say, "It's not working." But the universe doesn't respond to haste, it responds to constancy. Jim Carrey maintained that vision for 5 years, even without any indication of progress. This persistence is what creates vibrational alignment. It's what makes the invisible become visible. There's a detail that makes this story even more powerful. When Jim Carrey's father passed away, he placed the check in the coffin as a symbol of gratitude and faith. He understood that everything he achieved was the result of the unwavering belief he decided to cultivate, even when no one else believed. And this is something we can all apply. No matter the size of your dream, the principle is the same. The mind creates first. The material world merely reflects. I often say that the universe is like a mirror. It doesn't show you what you want to see. It reflects what you are. If you doubt, it reflects doubt. If you believe, it reflects possibilities. All you have to do is choose which image you wish to see reflected, and that image needs to be sustained with emotion, not with empty hope, but with certainty. Imagine if every single day you visualized your goal with the same intensity with which you feel your fears. Imagine if you infused your heart with the energy of gratitude, as if what you desire had already come to pass. That's exactly what changes everything, because the universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to vibration. Jim Carrey had no advantage, no support, nothing but his own faith. And that was enough. Because faith isn't waiting for something to happen. It's knowing it has already happened on another level, and simply allowing it to manifest in its own time. You can do the same now. Choose a goal, any goal, and live as if it were already part of your reality. Feel the joy, the lightness, and the gratitude of having achieved it. Each day, nurture that emotion until it becomes second nature. When that happens, you won't need to chase your dreams. They will start chasing you. Mike Tyson is a living example of how external success holds no power when the internal world is in disarray. He possessed natural talent, impressive strength, and a determination that propelled him to the top of the world. At the age of 20, he became the youngest world heavyweight boxing champion in history. He was admired, feared, and a millionaire. He earned tens of millions of dollars per fight, amassing a fortune that exceeded hundreds of millions of dollars. But still inside there was an emptiness. He never reprogrammed his mind to sustain the success he achieved. He remained trapped in the same paradigm of destruction and scarcity that had accompanied him since childhood. And because every law of the universe is precise, the exterior eventually reflected the interior. Tyson's mind was a battlefield far more intense than any ring he ever stepped into. He was conditioned from an early age to fight, not just for physical survival, but emotionally. He grew up amidst violence, rejection, and poverty. These experiences etched into his subconscious the belief that the world was a hostile place and that he needed to attack before being attacked. Even when money, power, and fame arrived, this programming remained. And the subconscious always wins. The destruction began from the inside out. Absurd spending, turbulent relationships, addictions, and impulsive decisions began to erode the empire he had built. In a short time, the man who had once earned over $300 million declared bankruptcy. This is not an isolated case. It's a reflection of what happens to anyone who seeks to change the exterior without transforming the interior. Because the mind is like a thermostat. No matter how much you raise the temperature of success, it will always adjust back to the level it's familiar with. Tyson didn't lose his fortune due to a lack of opportunities. He lost it because his mental pattern was not ready to sustain that level of abundance. And as long as the paradigm of scarcity dominates, the universe responds with losses, crises, and self-sabotage. I've seen this same pattern in so many people throughout my life. Talented individuals with incredible gifts who achieve something and then quickly lose everything. The problem is never luck, hard work, or destiny. It's a lack of internal harmony. Until the mind is reprogrammed, All success will be temporary. Tyson was an extraordinary fighter, but within him, there was a battle he never won. The fight against his own thoughts. I remember a time when, even as I began to prosper, I lived in fear of losing everything. It was as if, with each achievement, something inside me whispered, "This is too good to last." And that feeling, that vibration of fear, began to create situations that validated exactly that. Clients disappeared, opportunities stalled, and money seemed to slip through my fingers. That's when I realized that the universe doesn't fail. It merely reflects what I vibrate. And at that moment, I was vibrating insecurity. Mike Tyson never understood that true strength is not in the muscles, but in the mind. The body follows the mind's command, and life follows the command of beliefs. When the belief is destructive, the result could not be different. He attracted situations that reflected the internal chaos, and no matter how much he tried to start over, the same pattern repeated until he decided to look inward. It was only when he began to seek self-knowledge that his life started to find balance. This shows an undeniable truth. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Tyson wanted peace, but he vibrated anger. He wanted stability, but he emanated fear, and the universe, like a mirror, returned exactly what he emitted. We all have a bit of this within us, this conflict between what we consciously desire and what we unconsciously believe. As long as this misalignment exists, there will be suffering. The mind is like a fertile field. If you plant fear, you will reap chaos. If you plant self-confidence and abundance, you will reap prosperity. Mike Tyson proved that talent without consciousness is like a boat without a rudder. It may float for a while, but it inevitably gets lost. Abundance without mental preparation becomes a burden because the subconscious constantly seeks to balance energy. And if the mind believes it doesn't deserve, it will find a way to lose what it gained. Therefore, true success is never just material, it's spiritual. It is born from within, from the harmony between who you are and what you believe you deserve. Money, recognition, applause, all of this is a natural consequence of a mind aligned with abundance. When you become mentally and emotionally stable, the universe understands that you are ready to sustain more. Mike Tyson is a living lesson that the power that takes you to the top is not the same power that keeps you there. What keeps you there is consciousness, and that consciousness is only born when you decide to reprogram the old beliefs that limit you. Tyson had everything, lost everything, and only began to rediscover himself when he learned that the enemy was never outside. It was always within. The true ring is the mind, and it is there that victory or defeat are decided long before any fight begins. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. This is one of the simplest yet most profound truths I have ever learned. Because most people believe that the law of attraction boils down to intensely desiring something, visualizing it, and waiting for the universe to bring the result. But the universe doesn't respond to desire. It responds to identity. It responds to the vibration you sustain, the emotional frequency that dominates your thoughts, and the beliefs that shape how you see yourself. You can repeat, "I want to be rich" 1,000 times, but if deep down you feel you are not worthy of it, that money is dangerous, or that it doesn't belong to you, the energy you are emitting is one of lack. And the universe always mirrors what you emit, not what you say. It's like trying to tune into a classical music station while on a news radio frequency. No matter how much you turn the dial, the content only changes when the frequency changes. For a long time, I lived with exactly this conflict. I said I wanted to prosper, but inside me there was a feeling of guilt and limitation. When I started earning over $5,000 per month with my cleaning company, I didn't know how to handle it. It was an unthinkable amount for someone who, a short time before, earned almost nothing. And without realizing it, I began to sabotage my own success. I spent unnecessarily, donated more than I could afford, and within a few months I found myself back at square one. The truth is, the problem was never the money. It was my internal self-image. I still saw myself as the same man from before, struggling, surviving, trying. I had changed the result but not the identity, and that's exactly what happens to most people. They struggle, they strive, they take courses, they study, but they continue to live the same patterns. Because the mind doesn't operate from conscious will, it operates from the subconscious self-image. The image you have of yourself is the limit of your destiny. If you see yourself as small, no matter what the world says, you will act, decide, and feel like someone small. And this creates a cycle that reinforces the same reality. I've seen this happen thousands of times. Talented people with extraordinary potential who cannot break through the barrier of their own belief. They say they want to grow, but the internal voice whispers, "That's too much for you. You're not ready. You're not the type of person who achieves that." This voice, even silent, holds more power than any external force. And as long as it dominates, nothing truly changes. The subconscious mind is extremely literal. It doesn't understand metaphors. It simply obeys. When you think, feel, and say that something is not for you, it records that as a command. And from then on, it begins to adjust all your behaviors to ensure that command is fulfilled. That's why many people repeat the same financial mistakes, the same relationship patterns, the same professional results. They are trapped in a script that was written long ago, perhaps in childhood, perhaps in traumatic past experiences. When I realized this, everything began to change. I decided to rewrite the script. I started affirming daily, "I deserve to prosper. I am worthy of abundance, and I am the creator of my reality." At first, it felt like a lie. My old mind rejected those words, as if saying, "Who do you think you are?" But with time, something began to transform. I wasn't just saying it, I was feeling it. And when the feeling shifts, the vibration changes. When your vibration changes, the universe responds. You need to understand that guilt, doubt, and fear are just as powerful vibrations as faith, trust, and love. The difference is that the former create resistance, while the latter create flow. Scarcity is a frequency that contracts. Abundance is a frequency that expands. So ask yourself, what do you feel when you think about wealth, love, or success? If you feel anxiety, doubt, or guilt, that's perfectly fine. It simply shows that an old paradigm is at play within you, and it can be reprogrammed. Neuroscience confirms that the human mind is malleable. With every new conscious thought repeated with emotion, new neural connections are formed. This means that, biologically, it's possible to create a new mental identity, but this process requires persistence. You don't change a pattern rooted for years in 1 week. It takes repetition and feeling. You have to live the new version before you see it in the mirror. I started to see myself as prosperous long before money actually flowed consistently. I adjusted how I spoke, how I walked, how I behaved. I treated every dollar I earned as a symbol of expansion. And when my subconscious mind started to accept that new identity, the doors began to open. Financial flow, opportunities, the right people. Everything started to align. Not because the world changed, but because I changed the internal frequency that governed my reality. The most common mistake is to think that transformation happens from the outside in, but it's always the other way around. The exterior simply reflects the interior. If you want to experience abundance, start vibrating abundance. If you want love, vibrate love. If you want peace, vibrate peace. The universe doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you are emotionally capable of sustaining. I often say that the real blockage isn't a lack of resources, but a lack of internal permission. You will only maintain what you believe you deserve. And when you finally understand this, you'll realize that nothing was ever missing, only a new level of consciousness. Because reality has always been and always will be the perfect mirror of what you believe yourself to be. Have you ever noticed that the happiest people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly? It's as if the universe conspires in their favor. They smile, and everything flows. They believe, and doors open. But what many don't understand is that this doesn't happen by chance. There's a scientific and spiritual reason for this. Emotions like gratitude, joy, and love have much higher vibrational frequencies than fear, worry, and doubt. And the universe responds to these frequencies like a perfect mirror. The higher your vibration, the more harmony you attract. Gratitude, in particular, is one of the most powerful energies that exist. It is the state of consciousness that immediately puts you in alignment with abundance. When you are grateful, even without an apparent reason, you send a clear message to the universe. I trust. I recognize abundance even before I see it, and the universe responds by multiplying what you already have. It's as if it's saying, if you appreciate what already exists, you are ready to receive more. But when you focus on what's missing, when you live complaining or comparing yourself, you communicate scarcity. And scarcity attracts more scarcity. For years, I observed people trying to change their lives with effort and resistance, and I realized that nothing worked until they changed their emotional vibration. The difference between someone who attracts prosperity and someone who lives in constant struggle lies in how they feel, not in what they do. The former acts in tune with joy and confidence, while the latter acts out of fear and doubt. The behavior might even be the same, but the energy behind it is completely different. I want to offer you a reflection. How many times upon waking do you first think about what's wrong, the bills to pay, the problems, the outstanding tasks? This simple habit of starting the day with worry defines your entire frequency. The brain, upon identifying an emotional state of threat, activates the survival system. And what is survival? It's scarcity. You don't think about growing when you're in survival mode. You only think about defending yourself, protecting yourself, resisting. And while vibrating in that state, the universe understands that you are not yet ready to expand. True transformation begins when you learn to change your emotional state regardless of what's happening around you. It's when you decide you will feel gratitude even if something is still missing. When you realize that you don't need to wait for circumstances to change to feel good. It's the opposite. You feel good first and circumstances change afterward. That's how energy flows. I want to give you a simple yet very powerful example. Once a woman told me she had been trying for a better job for months, but nothing was happening. She felt frustrated, tired, and disheartened. All she did was send out resumes, pray, and wait. Until one day, after hearing one of my seminars, she decided to do something different. Instead of complaining about not having the job, she started to give thanks every day, as if she already had it. She was grateful for the new office, the salary, the colleagues, the environment. She felt genuine joy for something that didn't yet physically exist. 3 weeks later, she was called for a position she didn't even remember applying for. And most interestingly, it was exactly as she had described in her visualizations. Gratitude creates a bridge between what you desire and what you are currently experiencing. It dissolves resistance, erases fear, and causes the universe to reorganize itself to match your new vibration. You don't need to understand how, just feel it with sincerity. I practiced this many times in my own life. There was a period when everything seemed to be falling apart, businesses in crisis, overdue bills, and the feeling that I was losing control. It was at that moment that I decided to apply what I was teaching. Every day upon waking, I gave thanks. I was grateful for still being alive, for my health, for having a roof over my head, for having learned something from every challenge. In a short time, the burden began to disappear. Ideas returned, opportunities appeared, and the energy changed completely. And that's what I want you to experience now. I challenge you to do a simple exercise, one that can completely change your energy. For the next 7 days, every time you think about something you lack, immediately replace it with something you already have and give thanks. If you think, I don't have enough money, say, but I have food on my table. I have the strength to work. I have the intelligence to create more. If you think my relationship is difficult, say, I am grateful to have someone who teaches me to grow. This shift in focus might seem small, but it completely changes your vibration. Quantum physics has already proven that the energy of gratitude alters the body's electromagnetic field. When you feel grateful, your heart emits a coherent frequency, and your brain starts to function in harmony with it. This coherence between mind and emotion creates an energetic signature that attracts equivalent experiences. That's why when you become grateful, the universe starts to conspire in your favor in ways you cannot predict. Life always responds to the frequency you choose to sustain. When you vibrate in worry, you attract more reasons to worry. When you vibrate in gratitude, you attract more reasons to be grateful. Everything you want already exists in potential, just waiting for you to tune into the right frequency to receive it. And gratitude is the fastest path to that alignment. Starting today, make gratitude your first thought upon waking and your last before sleeping. Not as an empty ritual, but as a state of presence. Because when you genuinely feel gratitude, even for what hasn't happened yet, the universe understands that you already possess it. And those who already possess don't need to fight. They simply attract. The truth is, everything you need to change your reality is already within you. The universe is always ready to give you more, but it waits for the moment when your energy aligns with what you desire. And that moment begins when you decide. When you consciously choose to vibrate in gratitude, abundance, and faith. From then on, coincidences become answers, and what once seemed impossible begins to feel natural. If this message resonated with you in any way, please share this video with someone special, someone who might need to hear exactly this today. Sometimes a simple word is all it takes to ignite new hope in someone's life. I sincerely thank you for being with me until now, and I want you to know, the best is yet to come. Stay with me, because in the next video, we will delve even deeper into this journey of transformation. I'll see you there.